This next story in book form is called How Many Tablets? But I think I prefer the one we're going to use now. We were using more of this drug than the huge local general hospital. There we are. Now off we go then. The problem with Bonnie. No sooner had we coped with this huge Goliath problem when we realised that Bonnie was also suffering, but with a different problem. This old chap had worked for Whitbread's brewery in the city of London for most of his life. You may recall from the Collecting Goliath story, or if you have downloaded Goliath's free picture storybook, you will know that Goliath and Bonnie had met on a farm in Kent, where Goliath had initially retired. Bonnie, who one of our helpers, Joe, found out from Whitbread's brewery, had the actual stable name of Tide. He was a very large grey Shire horse. He was far wider than Goliath and quite probably far heavier. His legs were shorter and thicker, but his nature was equally gentle. They were inseparable. Bonnie was having difficulty with his breathing. After moving only a few paces across the large open shed that they lived in, he seemed totally out of breath. Julian, their vet, was called in to see what was wrong, and he prescribed Ventolin, a very strong and quick-acting stimulant to the respiratory system. Humans who suffer from asthma use an inhaler with just the same medication. This treatment worked well and gave the old horse great relief, but it was very expensive. 1 week's treatment for a horse of his size was over £70, even in the 1990s. If we were going to continue to help him, something cheaper had to be found. How many tablets? Julian decided to use prednisolone, a cortisone treatment generally used for many different health problems in humans and animals. It was much cheaper, but would it work? He contacted a drug supplier and they told him what was needed for an animal the size of Bonnie. How many tablets? They told us that we needed to give him 360 5-milligram tablets a day for the first 2 weeks. How many tablets? Was my initial reaction. Julian explained that his reaction was just the same when he heard the number quoted. We thought the old horse would burst, but the drug suppliers assured us that this was what was necessary. I bought a tablet counter, just the same as the pharmacy uses, and had to watch the old chap like a hawk as he munched his breakfast. Initially, tablets were sprayed everywhere. As he lifted his mouth and was looking around, they just flew in all directions. I had to devise some way of keeping them together. Molasses was ideal, but bad for his teeth. At his age, we then thought, as he was likely on borrowed time anyway, his teeth would not come to much harm. Molasses won the day, just a little, mixed with his breakfast and easily gluing all the tablets together. After a week or so, the difference in the old horse was dramatic. He could move around without distress and became a far happier animal. After 2 weeks, we could begin to reduce the dose gradually and find a safe level. Just the right number of tablets that would maintain this good quality of life. We settled on about 150 a day and then asked the drug company if it could be in powder form to simplify introducing the drug into his food. Very kindly, the drug company obliged and supplied us with large pots of about a pound weight. They also worked out the dose for us to use in scoop form. The cost. Big Bonnie was all fixed up, and during this time we had a good contact in the pharmacy of the local district general hospital. Patients who had been prescribed products for their health but no longer needed them were asked to donate them to us for use on the horses. If you missed looking at the history of the Northcote Heavy Horse Centre, we'd better explain that we look after big horses with health problems. Stuff coming from the hospital was nothing serious like dangerous drugs. Just simple things like wound dressing and pots of E45 cream and the such like. We happened to ask a pharmacy how much it would cost us to buy prednisolone on the National Health Service, and found to our surprise that with 2 big horses and 1 pony now using the drug, we were using more prednisolone than the whole of the huge local general hospital. And thanks to Julian, we were also buying it much cheaper. Big Bonnie coped well on this treatment for more than a year. Then one morning I found him in great distress. He was lying on a straw bed, most unusual for him, as he was almost always on his feet. He seemed to tell me he was in trouble and wanted to try and get up, but his back legs just would not work. I got the golly lifter and Julie hitched him up. Gently I tried to help him get up, but it was not to be, and with a shudder he just collapsed and died. He would have appeared to have had a stroke during the early morning that had disabled him. He'd managed to wait until I arrived at breakfast time before finally giving in to the problem. I covered old Bonnie with a canvas sheet and explained to Goliath what had happened. It was about 6:30 a.m. Just Bonnie's nose was peeping out from under the sheet, and Goliath stood for some time nuzzling his friend as if to say goodbye. There we are, that's the end of the little story brought to you by Cracker Books, written and read by Keith Sanders. Look out for some more Golly and Bonnie stories, now being converted into audio slideshows. If you like what we do on YouTube, you might give us a like. If you give us a like, it helps YouTube know if you like what we do. At the same time, if you subscribe to our channel, then they will let you know when we produce something new. It doesn't cost anything, and it helps us with the YouTube people. Now then, if you want to know more about Goliath and Bonnie, then you can download Goliath's own picture storybook. It's one of the 10 books that we produce and provide as free downloads on the internet. Coming up is a link to the book where you can find on our bookcase. You can go and have a look and choose it for yourself. So there we are. In the meantime, thank you for being with us. Until the next time.